Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the Board of Adjustment meeting of October 4th. I call the meeting to order. On the first order of business is some recognition from some past members, chairman of the Board of Adjustment. And will Jeff Austin please come up first? And John will be reading the resolution.
Whereas Jeff Austin graciously served the citizens of the community as a Board of Adjustment member from December 8, 2009 to September 6, 2018, and whereas in addition to his role as Board of Adjustment member, Jeff Austin also efficiently and effectively served as the chair of the Board of Adjustment from June 16, 2011 to June 21, 2012, and from January 8, 2015 to August 4, 2016. And whereas Jeff Austin's fulfillment of his responsibility was achieved with a heartfelt dedication to the well-being of the community, and whereas Jeff Austin brought notable skills of analysis and respect for facts to his decision-making, and whereas Jeff Austin consistently treated all individuals he encountered, whether citizens or staff, with respect and courtesy. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Jeff Austin is hereby commended by the City of Oklahoma City Board of Adjustment for his service to the community as a member of the body, and it's signed by the chair.
I want to hand this to you and thank you very much for your service. I know when I first started on the board, you were chairman and you helped guide me through, and I just went through the little process, and I want to appreciate all your efforts and time that you spent for all of us. Would you like to say something?
Just thank you very much. This is a familiar setting. I did this for almost 9 years, and I valued the experience, and never resented the time or the meeting. I just enjoyed it very, very much, and I want to thank Diane and the rest of the board members and the staff and everybody that I've served with over the years. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Whereas Scott Cravens graciously served the citizens of the community as a Board of Adjustment member from November 4, 2014 to July 5, 2018, and whereas in addition to his role as a Board of Adjustment member, Scott Cravens also efficiently and effectively served as the chair of the Board of Adjustment from August 17, 2017 to July 5, 2018. And whereas Scott Cravens' fulfillment of his responsibilities was achieved with a heartfelt dedication to the well-being of the community, and whereas Scott Cravens brought notable skills of analysis and respect for facts to his decision-making, and whereas Scott Cravens consistently treated all individuals he encountered, whether citizens or staff, with respect and courtesy. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Scott Cravens is hereby commended by the City of Oklahoma City Board of Adjustment for his service to the community as a member of this body.
I really enjoyed working with you, and you just kept everybody on point and did so much in depth. I do appreciate it, and you're still serving on the planning commission, correct?
That's right.
And so your services do continue. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just glad that you guys were going to commend Jeff for his service, so I got invited too. So thank you very much. Yeah, it was an honor.
Okay, now we are here to the next item of business is to receive the, before we start though on all this, I probably ought to do some little ground rules or procedures. Most of you know that turn off your cell phones, and be sure to, if you are going to appear before the board, you need to sign in, and when you come forward, you go to the podium, give your name and address, and that you're the applicant or how you're representing. If you're a protestant or something, because I think that we have a protestant today, we need to have an orderly flow of how that works. So the applicant comes forward, and then the board will ask questions of the applicant. The protestant or protestants will then be given 5 minutes or so, or as succinctly as possible, a presentation of the protest. If you can join that into one presentation, that would be better if you could, if possible. And nobody is to come to the podium and speak to each other. You need to address the board at all times. And so we can start with the receiving of the minutes of the September 20th, 2018 meeting. Do we have any corrections or changes?
None that I know of.
Do I have a motion?
A motion to receive the minutes of the September 20th, 2018 meeting?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to receive the minutes of the September 20th, 2018 meeting, and we'll cast your votes. Motion to receive has been passed. On the continuance requests and withdrawals, we do not have any on the agenda today. Is anyone here or any of the applicants here wanting to have a continuance or request a withdrawal? Seeing none, we'll go forward to our public hearings. We have nothing on the consent docket, so we have items requiring separate vote. Could you please read the first item, please?
Item number 1, case number 14533, request of Jared James Crittenberg Brick for a variance to the required 6-foot site-proof screen in the PUD 1496 district located at 1213 Northwest 122nd Street.
Okay, will the applicant please come forward?
I'm not Jared. I'm Tom Langdon. I reside at 1917 Red Prairie in Edmond. Jared has a sick child today and had to stay home, so he asked me if I would come and represent him as the applicant. Now, to describe our application.
Sir, just as a kind of procedural matter, just before you get started on the substance, can you explain, I've got the PUD right here as amended a couple times, and it says just before section 8.1, notwithstanding the section pertaining to administrative approval of minor amendments, the following special conditions listed in sections 8.1 through 10 shall not be changed or amended in any way except by action of the City Council after review and recommendation by the Planning Commission. And what you're seeking a variance for today falls in the section 9.4 squarely within that section. Can you explain why procedurally we're able to even hear that matter?
I'm not good at explaining the procedure. I'm working with the developer. But Jared Crittenbrink from Guernsey and Company, who is our civil engineer on the project, went to the development department, and they suggested that since we were not going to ask to remove site screening, but rather change its material, that it would be better to come here for a waiver, because we are intending to build a site screen on the property.
I don't know if municipal council thinks that that's a sufficient enough.
I would like to defer to the municipal councilor's office to comment on the
I think it would be best to have the applicant explain how that provision of the PUD would apply to these circumstances. And regardless of what conversations may have been had with staff previously, we just want to make sure that we're still acting in accordance with the requirements of the PUD.
All I know is that Mr. Crittenbrink went to development department and asked to change the material on the site screen and was told to follow this procedure.
I can say this from my perspective before we even get started on the substance. I'm not sure if I feel comfortable saying that the board has the power to grant this application. And so without some further explanation on that point, and perhaps we even take a motion to continue this item while we get some further clarification on that issue, before we even get to the substance. I'm happy to hear some other opinions from members of the board, but that's currently where I sit.
I believe at this point in time, we do have Mr. Work here to talk as a protestant, so I think since we're having the hearing, we probably ought to at least complete the presentation of the hearing and maybe have a deferral over to the municipal counselor's office on the jurisdiction issue. But I think we need to move forward since we do have an applicant here. Do you want the municipal counselor to opine first, or?
If there are concerns about the jurisdiction of the board and whether or not the board can hear it, then I think a continuance is, with the consent of the applicant, is appropriate. Otherwise, the board could continue to hear the case on the merits and make a decision.
We would be fine with a continuance.
You want to hear from Kelly?
Before we do this, I just would like to mention that we do have a protestant here. Mr. Work, is that okay if we have, without any further presentation on this, to continue, if we continue to another time, that you'd be available to come in at that point in time?
Yes, Madam Chairman, excuse me, yes. Thank you. My name is Kelly Work, and I do represent two different property owners that are immediately to the north of the subject property. And I think the question that is raised is one that we would also raise, that if there is to be this proposed change to the PUD, that it would be more appropriate for that to be done through an application to amend the PUD through the Planning Commission and City Council. So, but we would not oppose the motion to continue this item so that review could be done by the municipal counselor's office as well.
Thank you. What I need to ask, do you want it the next date, which would be October 18th, or do you have any idea what date you would want for the continuance, so we could have it in our motion?
I think we probably need more time than that to get this issue settled, and if we have to go through an amendment to the PUD, it would take longer than that to put it together. So what's the date after that?
November 1st.
That would be preferable.
Okay. Do I have a motion on that?
Yeah, I'd move to continue case number 14533 to the November 1st meeting.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to continue to November 1st, item 14533. Will you please cast your votes?
Thank you.
The continuance is granted to November 1st. Thank you.
We have item number 2, case number 14534, request for a variance to the minimum 300 foot of frontage required to a public or private street in the RA single-family 1-acre rural residential district located at 6400 and 6420, 6400 Southwest 119th Street.
Will the applicant please come forward?
Hi, I'm Aaron Burson. I reside at 2525 Northwood in Edmond, Oklahoma. I'm an operations manager for Ron Walters Homes.
Presentation of your application, and you have some exhibits, if you could comment on those, please. And you need to state why you have complied with statutory requirements for a variance. So,
basically what these property owners are wanting to do is take this large lot, split into two and build two residences, possibly shops, with a shared driveway. You know, we could potentially have the option of splitting it the other way, but there's a big drainage ditch creek on the south edge of the property that would really restrict that southern tract's buildable area. Turning it this way gives great buildable area and falls within you know, the concept that there would still be only one drive servicing both lots on the frontage to 119th Street.
describe the adjacent areas and how its development and where the access is, and describe more fully how there's going to be a shared driveway and how that is all going to work.
Basically, if you look at the exhibit, the blue property line splitting track 1 and 2, the driveway would be centered on that, going south, and then teeing off to the individual residents to the east and the west.
Any of the board members have questions?
Yeah, I have a question in regards of the driveway, because I saw in the application that you mentioned that this was a better way than using the other arterial street, because
Yes, ma'am.
you'll have to join that HOA. So what will be the maintenance if you have just one driveway for two properties? Well, where are you planning on that?
Well, both properties would stay within ownership of the same family. So it would be, since it's on both lots, they would basically be responsible for their half of, maintaining that driveway. Another option would be shifting it and going with a cross-access agreement between the two property owners. If you shifted it all the way over, or even if you split it, you could still have a cross-access agreement.
Okay, my concern is because it is one family you just mentioned, but if they change properties and we
Sure.
have a split, and who's going to fix that?
Sure.
We're going to get
Yeah, I understand. And that may be the best way to address it, is with a cross-access agreement, just so that stays in place for the next property owner.
I always have trouble when we're doing that, and when you share the driveway and you're just family, I concur that it presents a problem, because many years down the road, the same family may not be in ownership of it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So is there no way you could go ahead and join the other association or group instead of doing this process?
Yeah, certainly they could. Like I said, the secondary issue with that is the southern track, how it has the drainage running through there. It cuts down that lot's space available, the usable space on that lot for that the homeowner would be on the southern track.
Your hardship, you couldn't really do it the other way, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Any other board members have any questions or comments or concerns? I noticed that the staff had seemed to be okay with it. I always have trouble with it, but
Yeah, I would just like to get more knowledge from John how it's usually when I share driveway, because, if we approve these and this property gets sold in the future, I just want to make sure we're approving something that's going to be maintained.
When something like this goes to plan review will require them to provide a cross-access agreement to do this, which will be for anybody that moves in there afterwards. So it doesn't just go with the current property owners. It would be filed with county records.
Okay, thank you.
so should we condition a cross-access agreement be filed?
We don't have one filed as far as I know. I don't have anything on it. But plan review will not allow them to build that drive without that cross-access agreement. They allow driveways to come off and another property owner to take access from that drive only if there is a cross-access agreement.
Any other questions or concerns?
I feel a lot better about it after that.
That was my thought. I think to address these two concerns, I don't think we obviously can't force a private agreement. I'm not sure if we can force the filing of a cross-access agreement, but if the planning department's going to require it anyway, I'm fine with approving it. I'd move to approve application for the case number 14534 for the reasons that it meets the statutory requirements.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve case number 14534. Cast your votes, please. The variance is granted.
Thank you.
Item number 3, case number 14535, request for a variance to the 20 feet and 1-story building height and 5-foot landscape buffer in the R4 General Residential District located at 3105 to 3111 Hickory Signpost Road.
Yes.
Madam Chairman and members of the board, my name again is Kelly Work, and I'm here acting as attorney for the applicant, Alan Brown, who is also present. And this project is really an infill residential project. The Jamestown condominiums are there on the north side of Northwest 63rd Street between May Avenue and Independence, and it presently consists of 40 condominium units. It actually was the first condominium project in the state of Oklahoma, and most of the units were built in the 1970s, with many of those around 1975. And these remaining 4 tracts or units just had not been built out. Most of the units were built in the 70s. There was a group that was built in 2002, and then there were some that are on 63rd Street, that front on 63rd Street, that were completed in 2009. So what Alan is a architect that I'm sure many of you know, and he's also acting as developer on this project. So what he is proposing to do is to build 4 additional condominium units on this, what is the last remaining piece available for development within Jamestown. Now, when the reason that the variance is requested, and this is an appropriate application and is one of the purposes, we believe that the Board of Adjustment is available to provide a relief valve where there are instances where the application of the ordinance would work an unnecessary hardship. In 1975, when most of the units within Jamestown were constructed, there wasn't this requirement for a maximum height within 60 feet of an R1 district. The Jamestown property is actually zoned R4, multifamily residential. In about 2008, there was an amendment to our zoning code that set forth these 2 new requirements, one of which it says that you cannot exceed 1 story and 20 feet within 60 feet of an R1 zoned property. And then it also required that there be a 5-foot landscaped buffer at the perimeter when you are adjacent to R1 property. And with respect to this particular, of course, this project was planned and designed before that ordinance change was made. And what Alan's project proposes to do is to build these 4 that would be 2-story units consistent with the other units. There are some actually in Jamestown that are 3-story, but predominantly they're 2-story, including the ones immediately to the west. So they will extend the peak, the highest point of these units, these 4 units that Alan proposes to build, will reach 27 feet. And then along the north boundary, there is an existing 7-foot brick wall that was constructed when the original project began in the 1970s. And then adjacent to that, so immediately south of that, there's a small landscaped grass strip. And then there is the ring road or the access drive that is between this tract that Alan proposes to develop and the wall. So there just is simply not, and the wall is actually a couple of feet in from the property line, from the Jamestown property line. So there is just not physical room there available to do a 5-foot landscaped buffer because the project was built, or those features of the project, the access road and the wall were built back in the 1970s. What I would like to do at this time is have Alan come forward and show you all he does have some elevation views and some photographs of the existing development within Jamestown, so you can get a better feel for what he is proposing to do. And incidentally, as I'm sure he'll tell you, he's been in close communication with the residents within Jamestown, and then he also reached out with a letter to those residents of those owners of the single-family homes to the north there, and sent them a letter with a depiction, a visual depiction of what his project is proposed to be, and invited them to call him if they have had any questions. And as of this morning, no one has responded to that. So we don't think there's any objection either within Jamestown or among the owners of the single-family properties to the north. So with that, let me ask Alan to step forward, and he can show you what he proposes to do with this project.
Really quickly, Mr. Work, and Alan may be the right person to ask this question to, but since you raised the notice issue, are these notices in addition to what the city provided?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. He sent individually addressed letters to those homeowners that are immediately to the north.
I should rephrase. Was the distance of the notices that you used in addition to, so that you captured additional homes that the city required notices didn't capture? Is that what you're saying?
Not additional to,
okay.
Just the notice was additional to the city's notice.
But
they received both letters, but it's the same group. And I don't think, and Alan didn't send letters to everyone that received the notice, because of course the notice extended to people on the south side of 63rd Street and others that probably would not be interested. So his attention was focused on those single-family homes that are immediately to the north of where his tract is located.
Okay. Alan Brown, 215 Northwest 32nd Street, Oklahoma City. I'm kind of the design guy, so Kelly, I appreciate you answering or going to the detail on that. I did send a letter to the property owners directly north of the site. There's 7 that abut Jamestown on the north, and I sent a letter to them just telling what we're doing, because, you get the letter from the city, and it's kind of like, what's this? So I sent elevation of what we're doing and described it, and asked them to call me with any questions, as Kelly said, but did not get any calls. So there's the site. As Kelly said, it's the last undeveloped parcel in Jamestown on the north side. We're calling it the north end of Jamestown. If you go to the next one, there's 4 units. They're very similar, different roof line and materials. And you can see, I'll show you photographs in a second. To the north is the drive that Kelly mentioned. You can see the property line noted in the brick wall, which is approximately 2 feet south of the property line. And that property line is approximately 25 feet from the north face of the proposed units, which line up with 2 townhouse units to the west, the north face. So they'll be consistent with what's there already.
Are they harmonious in size and materials and everything else?
Let's go to the next slide. We can skip over the plans. We're probably not too interested in that. They're 2-bedroom units, 2-story. So there's the elevation. The top is the north. The bottom is the south that faces towards the interior of Jamestown. On the top image, you can see on the right there's a outline of the unit, the townhouse to the west. You can see the height is very similar. They're all 2-story. And as Kelly also said, predominantly the units in Jamestown are 2-story, but there are some 3-story also, not the ones to the west. They are 2-story. Next. So this will kind of give you the character. These are the 2 units to the west of the site, and there's the site. And there's the 7-foot brick wall that separates Jamestown from the residential area. This shows the drive along the north, and you can see the 2 units that are to the west, and our units will be very similar in scale and, of course, the same setback. There's a little bit of a landscape area, so we'll be doing something similar, landscaping along the north face. Next. And looking from those units back to the east, the site is on the right You can see that's the current situation. There's about a 2-foot strip on the south side of the brick wall, and then the drive. So that's one of our variance requests. This is it's called Hickory Signpost Road along the south of the site, looking from the east back towards the west, and the site is on the right, and you can see the units to the west and some of the other ones for character and scale. I'm going to show you some other images that show character of the Jamestown. This is from the west, looking back then towards the east. On the left are the 2 townhouses to the west of my site. This is on the continuation of Drexel, south of Drexel, on the east side of Jamestown, just to show you the original units in the character, all 2-story townhouses. This is the north drive, the south drive, and on the right side are some of the newer ones that Kelly mentioned that were built in 2009, and the tan one, is one of the 3-story units. Next. And now this is on the west side called Brandywine Lane, I think, looking back towards the south at some of the newer units. But you can see there's quite a different mix of character and sizes and architecture. So next, and this shows the park, the common area in the center that a lot of the units front on, and you can see the 2-story character of those as well.
Do you have a picture that specifically shows there's not adequate space for the landscaping on in the area that you're required?
On the plan, if you can go back to the plans. Kind of back up one, back up to the elevations if you would. You can see, then we'll go to the plan. Well, you can see on there, go to the first floor plan, the next one, the other way. Okay, you can see along the north face of the property, there'll be the required landscaping, continuous, and along the east side as well as the south, continuous landscape strip. And if you'll go to the elevations, keep on. Right there you can see the green, you can see the landscape, evergreen type landscaping along the north of the units. Did that answer your question? Okay.
It seems that staff has said that the proposed building would be in keeping with the existing development. Is that correct? And the current existing drive north of the townhomes do not provide enough area for landscaping. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Also, I think if anything deserves a variance, I'm just speaking out, I can't do a motion, but if anybody deserves a variance, it would be your application that you've stated there was existing law that changed by ordinance, and that it would not, in fact, be in keeping, I think, from a design standpoint, to have a bunch of single families in the middle of the single story in the middle of all your development. I will defer to other board members if questions or concerns or comments.
Yeah, have to answer any questions.
If there are no more questions, I will move to approve the application number 14535 for the reason that it meets the statutory requirements for a variance.
I'll second.
We have a second motion and a second for the variance approval on case number 14535. Please cast your votes. Variance granted.
Thank you.
Item number 4, case number 14536, request for a variance to permit an accessory sign on street right-of-way into DTD 1 Downtown Transitional Limited District, located at 800 Northwest 9th Street.
Hi, my name is Jim Gleason. I'm with G&S Sign Services, 1019 East Grand Boulevard, Oklahoma City, representing my client, SSM Health. who you know of as, and we all do, as St. Anthony Hospital. In the process of a name change, so it's a kind of a new image for everybody to see, a new design. So what we've got over at this location, we've got a building it's placed right on the property line, which the placement of the sign, if we put the sign in the property with the location of the building, we don't have a good enough sight line to see the sign at all. So we're requesting, and this isn't a normal request of ours, to go into the right-of-way, but in this instance, if we can get it into the right-of-way, just get out away from the building just a little bit, get into the right-of-way where the sign can be visible. The sign is not really for advertising purposes. It wasn't placed on Chartel, which is a much more higher traffic area. Its allowance would be 75 square foot on the property. The size of the sign is designed at 35 square foot, about half the allowable square footage. The sign has got an opaque background. It's got routed aluminum copy, which makes the background opaque. So it's got a very low light output in the evening, because I know there is some residential right in the nearby area. So we're requesting that we get a variance to place in the right-of-way, and we'll be getting the DDRC approval, plus we'll be getting the revocable permit also.
I believe you had a DDRC meeting where it was recommended.
It already has the
go through?
approval from DDRC.
Okay.
It will require the revocable, though.
Yes. Yeah. And we'll get that. We'll do that application. We're familiar with that. And this will be being right next to the St. Anthony Hospital campus. This will become the standard for all the new signage for the SSM Health.
I think there was, in listening to the hearing below, staff even thought it would be necessary or important to have for direction in showing where your building, what the function was and where it was located. Is that correct?
Correct.
There's not a whole lot of space. I think I saw its buildings going on. Is that correct right now?
Yeah, we do have some signage that's been approved for the upper part of the building, but it's 3 stories high, and it's a neck strain to even see it when you're driving by. So this is just to mark the entrance so that people know where to pull in.
Okay. Any questions or comments from board members?
I had a comment. It might not apply for this variance itself, but my only concern is having a sign, and I saw the height, and there's residential area there. So under the sign, since you say it will be most likely standard for new signs, when it's built, is there a way to put something that will be a see-through or metal or something at the bottom? Because if you're a walker or a runner and you're passing next to that sign, it's someone could easily be behind that sign. So it's my only concern for safety. Obviously doesn't,
well, the sign,
it's not what we're here for, but I would
this
like
one
to.
here, I mean, we could have had one that was like an 8-foot tall sign, but this one here and in the future ones that are going to go on the campus, they're only a 5-foot tall sign. And it does allow, I guess, if you can see over 5 foot, that would be really the only thing I think we could do to where you could see past the sign.
Yeah, I was just saying, I see at the bottom a gray part on that sign. So, the material that you use there, and this just comes, I've gone with the police department for crime prevention through environmental design, so it's a accepted principle to try to see and safety.
Yeah, I mean, I could request that through the SSM Health out of St. Louis, but this here is a design that's been placed at all their health
I want to make sure to, provide my comments since you are in design business, and we might see you here again.
I'll consider it in the future.
I was looking for a bit more in the application just so that I could think of kind of contingencies like this and maybe a mock-up of where it would be. And right now I kind of have to strain to imagine what it would look like and then imagine all the different iterations of harm or of threats, any kind of danger. And I didn't really see that. And in addition to that, there are some comments about how it still sits a good distance away from the road. Without a bit more on what the final product will look like, I can't kind of think of these kind of hypotheticals and feel comfortable approving it, other than to say, I also give deference to the design review committee, and they've approved it. So, that also weighs in favor of approving it. But those are just kind of my current thoughts.
Well, if we need to, we can go back and we can take some photographs from the street and show the sight lines and how the building restricts the sight lines and why we need to place it just on the outside. I mean, we're not asking to go on the other side of the sidewalk. We're still staying very close to the building, and we're just jumping to the outside of that parking lot. But
would you have any objection to continuance in order to update your application and provide that information to the board?
No, we can do that.
Yeah, I hate to bring you back over and over, especially if the rest of the board members feel comfortable, but if they express similar concerns, that would be my preference, making me feel more comfortable.
Yeah, we can do some photography and show it.
Personally, in my car, I have trouble seeing over trucks that are next to me. So a little 5-foot sign would be, I don't say the same, but, I sympathize that, bike riders maybe, coming down the sidewalk.
Yeah, we'd entertain a continuance.
So you would be in favor if we move to continue the item to October 18th?
Yes.
Okay, I need a motion and a second for continuance.
I'd move to continue case number, looking at the exhibits, 14536 to the, what's the meeting date there, October
18th.
18th meeting.
I'd second that.
I have a motion and a second to continue case number 14536 to the October 18th meeting, signified by casting your vote. The item is continued to October 18th. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There is no one else left in the audience, so we don't have any comments from the public. Do we have any comments or other business that the board would like to have today? So I guess we're adjourned at this time. Thank you so much.